بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه الغر الميامين. الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سيدي ومولاي علي بن أبي طالب. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. أما بعد، يقول الله في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ونريد أن نمن على الذين استضعفوا في الأرض ونجعلهم أئمة ونجعلهم الوارثين. The first of our salawat in honor of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The second in honor of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. The third with your loudest voices in honor of the Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Respected scholars, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. The discussion concerning the Dajjal is a fundamental discussion in religious thought, otherwise known in the English language as the discussion of the one-eyed impostor, a discussion which requires an in-depth examination, for indeed it is a central discussion in Islamic history as well as within Islamic theology, and a discussion which can be approached from a wide variety of angles. For indeed we know in the world today virtually every religion promulgates the idea that at the end of time there will come a messianic figure. The role of this messianic figure is to bring justice on the earth and to remove injustice, to bring about a peaceful coexistence and remove all types of tyranny. Whether you study the religion of Christianity or the religion of Judaism, or even the religion of Hinduism, or the religion of Sikhism, or the religion of Zoroastrianism, you'll find that each and every one of these religions discusses the idea of a Messiah who comes to stand for truth, to remove falsehood, who comes to stand for that which is good, to remove that which is bad. And therefore you find that in the same way the Messiah is discussed, the enemies of this Messiah are also discussed. In which way? In the idea that the enemies of this Messiah, those who stand for that which is seen as being wrong, or that which is seen as being bad, are also discussed within much of the literature. Therefore, when it comes to the discussion of the Dajjal is a central discussion. For it is a discussion which allows us to understand a number of key concepts. The first one is the fact that this discussion allows us to gain closeness to the Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman. And the idea that there is a responsibility on us to know the Imam of our time. Knowing the Imam of our time does not mean that I know he's the 12th of the Imams, or that his mother, for example, is Narjis and his father is called Imam al-Hasan al-Askari. Knowing the Imam of my time is actually understanding the role of this Imam, actually understanding what type of guidance he'll be to mankind. The famous hadith, what does it state? It states, "Man mata wa lam ya'ruf imam zamanah mata mitatin Jahiliyyah," the one who dies without knowing the Imam of his time, dies the death of someone who is in a state of ignorance. What do we mean someone in a state of ignorance? It means that there is a need for everyone in their particular time to know the Imam, for the Imam is the continuation of the message of the Prophet. The Prophet brought us revelation, the Imam provides us with the correct interpretation of this revelation. The Prophet, when he brought the Quran, the role of the Imam is to provide us with protection for that revelation and its interpretation. Therefore you find on the first level, when we discuss the Dajjal, we discuss the whole idea and the concept of the Imam and gain closeness to an understanding of the Imam within our teachings. On a second level, it allows us to understand the enemy of the Imam, because you should know your friends, but you should also know your enemies better. When you discuss the Dajjal, you have an understanding of what type of enemy you may be facing today, what type of enemy the Imam may face, in which form does this enemy come. You find that the discussion of the Dajjal is pertinent. Why? Because today many Muslims are of the belief that this could be the age of the reappearance of the Imam. This could be the age when the Imam returns from the period of occultation. And therefore, in the same way I need to know about my Imam, I also need to have an understanding of who it is that is trying to destroy his message, destroy his guidance. Number three, it's important because of the fact that subconsciously or consciously, I may be affected by the Dajjal right now. What do I mean? I mean that I may actually, as a human being, have to deprogram the way I've been programmed by the society I live in. Maybe the society which I live in, I subconsciously have accepted the ways of the Dajjal, not the ways of the Mahdi. Maybe I've accepted the ways of the Dajjal without knowing. Maybe certain parts of my lifestyle are more Dajjal-like than they are Mahdi-like. Maybe my behavior outside of Muharram resembles the Dajjal more than the Mahdi. When I discuss the Dajjal, I will reassess whether I have been programmed to actually believe in an Imam who will bring guidance, or whether I am actually programmed into subconsciously accepting a Dajjal system. And that's why you find that the Holy Prophet himself mentions that the issue of the Dajjal is not an issue of the religion of Islam only. No, every prophet discussed the Dajjal with their nation. What do we mean? We mean that even if you went to the Bible today, if you go to the Bible, the chapter of John, you'll see the discussion of the Antichrist. The discussion of the Antichrist, what is it? A discussion of someone who rejects the position of God and someone who fights the position of Jesus, son of Mary. Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he comes forward and he says, every prophet told their community about the Dajjal, and I tell you about him as well. But I will tell you something which no one told any of their people, that he is Al-A'war Ad-Dajjal. When he said he is Al-A'war, many came and asked the question, Al-A'war, what does it mean? It means the one who is blind in one eye. Many came and asked, does that mean that literally there is a human being who will come who is blind in one eye but can see in the other? Or does it mean something metaphorical? That no, there may be a system which relates to it. And you find the Prophet in another hadith, what does he state? He comes forward and states, beware of five. Beware of trials with your wealth, trials with your old age, trials with your death, trials with sickness, and trials with the Dajjal. I remember reading Imam al-Awza'i, when he used to finish his tahiyyat, after finishing them, he would straight away say, Ya Allah, protect us also from the fitna of the Dajjal. You find therefore that the Holy Prophet on many occasions warned us that Al-A'war Ad-Dajjal is someone we have to beware of. But we need to ask ourselves the question, Ad-Dajjal, is he with us or not? Is it with us or not? Because the discussion about the Dajjal asks the following questions which I'd like to examine tonight. And this issue is of the utmost importance in our life. Number one, what did the Prophet say is more dangerous than Dajjal in our lives? Number two, is Dajjal literally someone who is blind in one eye? Number three, is it metaphorical that the Dajjal is not someone who's blind in one eye, but is rather a system? If so, what do the Freemasons have to do with this system? Number four, and of the utmost importance, which needs to be understood in this area, is looking at which parts of the media and which particular industry is a Dajjal industry which may be affecting us. Number five, what did Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen say are the signs of Dajjal you should be aware of in your community? And number 6, what's the role of our 12th Imam when he returns, and how do we present this to the world today? Let's examine this and dissect the topic in complete depth. Someone asks, is there something more dangerous than Dajjal? As in when the Prophet told us to beware of Al-A'war al-Dajjal, is there something out there which is more dangerous? There is one hadith in particular where the Prophet highlights that there is something which is more dangerous than Dajjal. Please listen to this point carefully. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, sitting down, he narrates that we used to guard the house of the Prophet in the times when it was dangerous. In the days when we had danger, we used to guard the house of the Holy Prophet. When we'd guard the house of the Prophet, when he'd be inside, we would whisper amongst ourselves, as we don't want to disturb the Holy Prophet, we'd stand outside and we'd whisper amongst ourselves. One night the Prophet came out, he said, why are you whispering amongst yourselves? As in, don't you know it's prohibited in this period to whisper amongst yourself? Because the idea was that there were certain companions who would whisper amongst themselves to cause trouble within the Islamic State. You found that Abu Sa'id narrates, I told the Prophet, Ya Rasulallah, we are not whispering amongst ourselves except that we are talking about Al-A'war al-Dajjal. We are talking about Dajjal, that's it. Rasulullah looked at him and said, oh Abu Sa'id, shall I tell you of something more dangerous than Dajjal? He said to him, Ya Rasulallah, forgive me and tell me. He said, concealed polytheism. When you have a friend who causes you to commit sin and evil, that is more dangerous than Dajjal. This point is very important. Why? Because this point, what is it saying? Sometimes the friends we keep the company of are themselves more dangerous than Dajjal may be in our lives. In which way? Ask yourself, the friends that you have, do they cause you to get closer to Allah or further away from Allah? Forget Muharram. In Muharram, everyone becomes religious. Outside of Muharram, these friends, do they make you continue to remain religious? Or are they the type who cause you to leave the religion, or indeed not practice the religion? What do I mean? I mean that now if I have a friend of mine, for the first 10 nights of Muharram, he tells me that, you know what, we shouldn't listen to music in these nights. It's haram. Imam al-Hussein, these nights, he is dead. Of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not around. Imam al-Hussein, in these nights, he is dead. But once the 10 nights are over, back in the car, and we pump that music so that everyone on the street knows we are driving. When this happens, this type of person who you have around you as a friend, this person, he causes you to become closer to Allah or further away. Of course, it's causing you to be further away. This person is acting as worse than a Dajjal. Why? A Dajjal may come, for example, and be an imposter. This person isn't being an imposter. In front of you, he's telling you, let's commit haram. Who cares what the people say? Allah will judge me. If you've got that much confidence in front of Allah, very good on you. But you should care about Allah watching your action. Imam Zain al-Abidin used to say, don't look at the size of the sin. Look at who you are disobeying. Sometimes there are people who look at the sin, but they forget who they are disobeying. A friend of mine who's leading me towards evil, that person is worse than Dajjal. Even further than this, you may find I have a friend of mine who says to me, hey, these drugs, come and smoke them. I say to him, but it's against the teachings of Ahlul Bayt. Ahlul Bayt tell us that these intoxicants are going to damage you. They're going to kill cells in your body. That friend says it doesn't matter, as in we'll change later. When we grow up, we'll go Hajj, we'll get married, all of this will change. But for now, let us indulge in the taking of drugs. That friend, Rasulullah said, is worse than the Dajjal, is more dangerous. Because that friend is causing you to disobey Allah. Someone says, but Sayyid Ammar, this is only a small sin. Imam Amir al-Mu'minin used to say, the biggest sin is the one you think is a small one. The biggest sin is the one you think is a small one. You find that when you have such a friend, for example, you may have a friend who says to you, there's no need for us to go to the mosque. Let's stay away from the mosque. Why? Because the people of the mosque, all they do is backbite us. They talk behind our back. They gossip about us. That person is causing you to stay away from good. That person is more dangerous than Dajjal. Why? They are taking you away from the religion. Someone asks, but what did the Prophet mean when he said concealed polytheism? Open polytheism is when I say there's more than one God. Concealed polytheism is when I practice in a way where I am taking a person away from the belief of God. That is more dangerous than Dajjal. Unfortunately, in our communities today, when you hear a lot of people saying Dajjal, 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 Imam al-Hujjah and Dajjal, they forget that sometimes they may have 1 million Dajjalin sitting around them. They may have a Dajjal in their own lives. No, someone worse than the Dajjal. Therefore, the Prophet in the ahadith wanted to make clear that before you enter the discussion on Dajjal, there is something worse than Dajjal, and that is someone who causes you to commit evil and sin. Don't also take it as an excuse that he made me sin. Shaitan on the Day of Judgment says, do not blame me, blame yourselves. I invited you, you accepted. Likewise today when people say it's my friend who made me sin, no, your friend may invite you. Cut relations with such a friend. But don't blame it on him. Rather, it's your decision. You have your free will, you make your decision. Therefore, when it came to Dajjal, when you looked within the traditions, the question arose, is Dajjal literally someone with one eye? You find that the first set of ahadith that we have indicate that the Dajjal is someone with one eye. Let's look at a couple of them. The first of them from Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The first of them from the Holy Prophet, what does it say? In the Sahih of Imam al-Bukhari, Abdullah bin Umar narrates that the Prophet narrates, in my dream I saw a person of a reddish complexion doing tawaf around the Kaaba. And when I saw the person doing tawaf, I saw water dripping from his head. I asked Jibreel, who is that? He said to me, that's Jesus, son of Mary. Then I saw someone with reddish curly hair, and I saw them that they had whitish skin, and they had a protruding eye which looked like a grape. And I therefore asked Jibreel, who is that? He said, that is Al-A'war al-Dajjal. And the Prophet continues to mention in the hadith that the person resembled a man from Bani Khuza'ah. Some came forward when they looked at this hadith, they said, look, the hadith is literal. That Dajjal is literally someone with a protruding eye. Someone who doesn't see in one eye, but the other one is protruding. Likewise, there is a hadith from Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, which they quote in other sources of Islamic books, where the Imam comes forward and states that the Dajjal is someone whose right eye is punctured. His left eye is a bit slanted. Only the believer can see on his forehead the letters Kufr. And that this Dajjal, when he walks, his caravan has mountains ahead of it and mountains behind it. And that he claims to the people, when there is a food shortage, I'll offer you food, do not worry. And he also, when there is a famine or there is a drought, he claims that I can control your sustenance, and I will also be the one who controls your limbs. Both these ahadith are very literal, as in they indicate someone where the Prophet says what? The Prophet says an eye like a protruding grape, and Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, according to other schools in Islam, says that he has a right eye which is punctured, and the word kufr on his forehead. These hadith are literal, and the hadiths which are literal don't stop there, as in there's even another hadith that they state there is a man by the name of Abdullah ibn Sayda or Sa'id ibn Sayda. They say that this man used to say that I am God. And he used to sit in his house, he'd say that I am God. And when he would say this, the Prophet one day went with Umar ibn al-Khattab. When they went to the house, Umar entered, he saw Sa'id ibn Sayda sitting. When he saw him sitting, Umar said, who do you believe you are? He said, I believe I am God. Umar wanted to take out his sword to hit him. The Prophet said, calm down. This person claims something, but he is an imposter. He is a Dajjal, And then the Prophet came forward and said, this person remains in a land in Asfahan, a land by the name of Yahudiya, and he will emerge near the end of time. Now this of course is something quite ironic on a side note. Why? He can be in a town in Asfahan and will come back at the end of time, but our Imam can't, of course. Anyway, so you continue, then there is another hadith that Tamim al-Dari mentions. Tamim al-Dari, what does he say? Tamim says, we went on a journey on a ship. These are all the literal ahadith which need to be known. He says, we went on a ship, we went to this island. When we were there at this island, we saw this man who was chained up on the island. He had frizzled hair, and he was of a Jewish background. The man, we were told, was Dajjal, Al-A'war al-Dajjal. And that we were then told that this A'war al-Dajjal will one day have the power to sit on a donkey whose stride is a mile long, and that he'll control the heavens and the earth. Please remember that we may take these metaphorically in a few minutes. He has the ability to control the heavens and the earth, and in the seas he can split them and travel across them, and he is able to travel across the oceans as well. You find that Tamim said, when this person returns, the Prophet said to us, he will rule for 40 years until he is defeated by the Prophet Jesus. When we look at these ahadith, these are very literal, as in many of us when we were growing up, we were told that Dajjal literally is a man who has one eye. And that's why until today on the internet, they try and show in Google images, some unfortunate person in the world who is challenged. As soon as he has one eye, they say, look, there's Dajjal. The poor guy may never have done anything wrong in his life. Look, that's Dajjal, that's Dajjal. There's a Dajjal everywhere, by the way, in the world. You find anyone who finds someone whose right eye is punctured or there's one eye, straight away, look, there's Dajjal. The reality is that these hadith, which are literal, can even be replied to, as in the hadith of Sa'id ibn Sayda. Sa'id died in Medina. The hadith about the Dajjal is Dajjal will never enter between Mecca and Medina. And the idea was that this person, Sa'id, died in Medina. There are many ahadith about him dying there. Therefore, saying that he is the Dajjal, no, we don't take these hadiths literally. Then there are a set of ahadith which are metaphorical, and this is very important, brothers and sisters. There are hadith which are metaphorical. For example, the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him and his family, states that before the Day of Judgment, there would have been 30 Dajjals. Does that mean that there were 30 Dajjals, meaning 30 people who unfortunately were born with a right eye punctured? No. Then there is the hadith of Amir al-Mu'mineen where he says that the Day of Judgment will not come until there are 70 Dajjals. 30 Dajjals, 70 Dajjals. Then there is the hadith of Amir al-Mu'mineen where he says, beware of the Dajjals from the descendants of Fatima. That there may be Dajjals, two of them. One he says from Basra, who's a Dajjal, who's an imposter. The idea here, someone comes forward, what do they say? They say, what do you mean 30 Dajjals? What do you mean 70 Dajjals? These sets of ahadith, according to Sayyid Muhammad Sadiq al-Sadr, may Allah bless his soul, these sets of ahadith are metaphorical in highlighting that the Dajjal system, it's not a person, rather it's a system, a particular metaphorical notion. In which way? In the way that one opinion is, we see with two eyes, the eye physical and the eye of the heart. I as a human being, I'd rather have better eyesight in my heart than in my eyes. Why? Because my heart is what's going to be questioned more than my heart on the day of judgment. My heart will be questioned more than my eye on the day of judgment. Yes, my eye will be questioned, but on the day of judgment, Allah will look at my qalb. He'll say, is this qalb salim or not? Did it hold hatred or not? Was it one of bravery or not? The idea is that my heart will be questioned. One famous scholar once said, I'd rather have the vision of my heart than the vision of my eyes. I want to be able to see clearly. The idea of Dajjal, when we say he has one eye which is punctured and the other eye which can see, one opinion is that Dajjal system, it can see everything. It's an all-encompassing eye, but it doesn't have the sight of the heart. And at the end of the day, we want the heart, don't we? We want that heart. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min nafsin la tashba' qalbin la yakhsha'. I want a heart which is humble. We don't want a heart khatam Allah ala qulubihim. We want a heart which is able to see. That's one opinion. The other opinion metaphorically is that the Dajjal is a system whose aims are twofold. Please bear with me. Its first aims is not allowing religion in society. Rather, it wants to build a secular, one-eye, narrow-minded society, devoid of religion, devoid of God. The second opinion is that the Dajjal system is one which doesn't want free thinkers. If there are free thinkers, then they are got rid of. They are shot, they are killed. The moment any president or prime minister or musician or film star questions the system of the Dajjal, then you find that they are got rid of. Someone says, what do you mean? I mean that there is an ideology which has existed for a while, but its name has changed over the years. An ideology which originally may have had a history and a basis in Christianity. As in, it may have only been 1,000 years ago when Christians recaptured Jerusalem. That there may have been a number of Christians who were amongst them, who then 20 years later captured the Dome of the Rock. But this group were heretics according to certain narratives. They decided to reject the path of God, even coming out with beliefs in idolatry, homosexuality, even coming forward and taking from the ancient pagan magic rituals of the Egyptians, satanic mystical groups like the Kabbalah movement, taking them on as part of their ways. Such a group would then be seen as heretics. Some of them may have been executed. Others found sanctuary in Scotland. When they found sanctuary in Scotland, under Richard the Bruce, they defeated the British. They remained within the spectrum of Scottish and British society, known as the Knight Templars. They would be amongst the leaders. They'd have the propaganda machines in their hands. But they realized that for them to have control of society, first they needed control of the European society. They changed their names from the Knight Templars to the Masons. And changing their name to the Freemasons, they would organize lodges, legions, initiations, where they would see which parts of Europe we can control with our world order. They began with Europe. When they began with Europe, they wanted to first go towards France, bring down the monarchy, have a stranglehold on a society where church and state are separated, and when there is secularism, which is the main. They, with the help of the Rothschild family. When Nathan Rothschild helped them with a major loan, he said to them, if you look after the Jewish community, we'll look after you with our bank industry. They'd go to control France. They controlled Europe. Then they wanted to go towards America. But when they went towards America, their leadership, which represented them, wanted to make sure of the symbolic Egyptian pagan movement would continue and be seen. That even on their currency bill, there would be a pyramid with an eye on top. Egyptian paganism and symbolism returned, and the eye returned. And the eye is to be looked at every time you pick up $1, that you see Al-A'war al-Dajjal, that eye right in front of you. And under it, the idea of a new world order. A world order which began in the 18th century outright and would continue. And continue with the eye as our symbol for that world order. Was it the only symbol? No, because you want to control the minds of people. So how do you control their minds? Look at how the Dajjal works. You think you, the followers of Ahlul Bayt, are the only ones who are working? This Dajjal is working as well. The Dajjal system works. It works by programming you, and sometimes you forget that you need deprogramming. How many lecturers say purify yourself? Do you know what they mean? They mean go and look in the mirror and ask yourself if you've been programmed by a system where now you are actually following things you can't get rid of anymore. What do I mean? I mean whether it's through films, whether it's through music, whether it's through other industries, they grab a hold of you and they take you towards them. Someone says, what do you mean? If it's through films, it was only years ago that a film was called The Man Who Would Be King. Sean Connery and Michael Caine. And one of them is in a town in the area of India where the inhabitants are rich. The inhabitants, as they're about to hit this man, as they're about to hit Connery, they see a necklace with an eye in front of them. When they see it, they all bow down before the eye. They say that we are a group of people called the Kafirs. Watch the film. Don't look at me. Watch the film. They say, we are the Kafirs and you are our king. He later says, I'm not just the king. Pointing at the eye, says, I am your God as well. I am your authority. At the time, subconsciously, I may not recognize what's happening to me. I've heard the word kafir, I've seen an eye, I've seen someone who calls himself God. But there's a message which Rudyard Kipling, who originally was a Mason, wanted to send. Then you find even something as trivial as The Simpsons. Very trivial. Someone will say to me, it's so trivial. But you all know very well that there are lines in that cartoon which are sharper than the mind of any adult. And in one particular one of them, when Homer is obsessed with the stone cutters, people look at it, they smile, they laugh when they see it. Who are the stone cutters? Well, isn't there a group called the Masons? What's a Mason? What's a stone cutter? He's obsessed with the stone cutters, but then they become obsessed with him. When they realize the symbol of the eye is with him, they start bowing down towards him. They go into a Masonic lodge. Again, it's embedded. In the film Independence Day, Area 51, where everyone has to enter the outside, you see a big eye outside Area 51. That everyone will eventually come under our authority. No one will come in our way. Even they didn't stop in the films, they went to the music industry. How? From the beginning in Mozart, his music would reflect his love for pagan Egyptian ideas and symbolism. In his classical music, the idea of the pagan Egyptian gods is being rhythmed on. Then you find later on someone like Madonna prides herself on dancing on a checkered board. The symbol of the Masonic movement is, of course, the checkered board. All of them would dance on it. On top of that, in one of her albums, she shows the eye right behind her. If you don't believe in it, see on the back of her jacket there's an eye. But now, ironically, only a few years ago, Madonna says, I've become a member of the Kabbalah movement. The Knight Templars had used Kabbalah. Madonna today in her music, Kabbalah is there within the music, within her own lifestyle. You find even that person, Jay-Z. He comes forward in his lyrics, keeps on telling us about a sun god. Why the sun god? Why embed in your listeners the idea of the sun god? Because of the ancient origin of the group who didn't believe in Allah, but rather heretically believed in the sun god. And therefore you find in every area, even on my phone, when I'm answering my phone. And what does the person have? He says, I have an Apple iPhone. You look at that apple, why is the apple bitten? Why not keep a full apple? Because the original sin was a bitten apple, wasn't it? And that original sin remains with you forever. Someone comes forward and says, well, these are conspiracies. My role isn't to tell you what to think. It's to tell you how to think. You as a follower of Al-Hujjah, you have to be someone who is ready for what the opposition is doing. Have to be ready to understand there is a movement who does not like the message of Imam Al-Hujjah, does not like the message of justice. Their Al-A'war Al-Dajjal eye movement is in front of all to be seen. And therefore you find the traditions tell us, beware of these people, understand. Someone says, I haven't been affected by them, they can't affect my life. If you were just to look at the music and the film industry alone, there are people who say, we cannot drive unless we listen to music. There are people who say, we cannot sleep until we listen to music. There are people who cannot live unless they download music tunes. Tell me, who's winning, Mahdi or Dajjal? Mahdi's sons and his descendants can't live without music. Dajjal's movement sits back and smiles at them and says, you think I haven't programmed you? You can't even drive or sleep without me, without my main people who work for me. Those who dance on the checkered boards and have their eyes behind them, they are my workers. You can't live without them. And all of them are there for us to be seen. The question arises therefore, how would we know if we are in the time of Dajjal or not? Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah wa salamuhu alayh has a famous narration. Allahumma salli. Allahumma salli. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen has a narration where he says, if you want to know if the Dajjal is amongst you, then these are the signs of the Dajjal. The first sign of the Dajjal is children will disobey their mothers. In which way? In the idea that these children who've been instilled to obey their mothers, heaven lies underneath the feet of the mother. The mother has a sacred place within the religion. Today you'll find teenagers who will find it normal to disobey their mother, to be rude to their mother, to even take their mother towards the courtroom. Take their mother towards the courtroom, lie about their mother, disrespect their mother. That's amongst the first of the signs. The second is people will stop offering full prayers. Mark the words, not stop offering prayers. Stop offering full prayers. What does this mean? Have you seen those people who say, Wallah, I pray Dhuhr and Asr, but Maghrib sometimes I miss it because I go to sleep too early. And there are others who say, Wallah, I miss Fajr because I can't wake up, you know, it's difficult, I'm really tired. Amongst the signs of the Dajjal is when the Ummah of Rasulullah begins to miss full prayers. They start making excuses. Would you believe, forget missing full prayers. Today we have people who don't even pray. But Dajjal, one of the signs is people who begin to miss their full prayers. Number three, the rulers will be corrupt. When you have Muslim states today whose rulers are the embodiment of fighting the Imam, the embodiment of fighting the servants of the Imam, the deputies of the Imam, I tell you there are some Arab countries who leave a lot to be desired. That disgraceful country which looks after Mecca and Medina, that country which has shown disrespect towards Jannat al-Baqi', where the Imams of Ahl al-Bayt are buried. That's rulership which is more corrupt than any rulership you'll find. Is it just them? There are other Arab countries you can mention who, when the servants of Allah were fighting the unjust, they were supporting the unjust with weapons. They were manufacturing, providing ammunition, and they come in public and they say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Whereas they were the embodiment of fighting, the rulers will be corrupt. Number four, adultery will become normal. Do you know how many cases we have of youths aged 17 to 25 who committed zina before they became religious? Alhamdulillah, they become religious. But how do you live with a stain like that? That I committed zina. I could have done everything in halal, but I performed the haram. It's become a norm these days for a youth to say, when I was younger, I wasn't religious, I done all this haram, but now I become religious. The ummah of Imam al-Hujjah is like that. The ummah of Imam al-Hujjah has to be religious in their 20s, in their 30s. Why can't we produce a group who are religious from a young age? Why is it everyone has to be religious late? Why can't we have a group who are strong enough to look after themselves? Then number five, there will be no shame amongst the people. Look at some of the members of our ummah and the lack of shame they show today. In which way? There is a lack of shame in the way they speak to their parents. A lack of shame in the way they dress amongst each other. A lack of shame in the way they put pictures on their computer accounts. A lack of shame in the way they speak to each other in a vulgar language. Amongst the signs of a Dajjal are those who have no shame amongst each other. Number six, when the scholars will be corrupt. I warn myself before I warn you. When the scholars will be hypocritical, where the scholars preach one thing and act another, I warn myself before I warn you that there may be scholars out there today. It's easy for everyone to wear a garb these days. On the contrary, do you know these days, people who haven't even done any study whatsoever, suddenly they're wearing a garb. People are calling them, so we don't want to go too deep into that particular area, but you find these days everybody's being given titles. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, before you get to his name. You find that these scholars, looking at the garb, they want the dress. Why? Because they know that when you wear the dress, no one can question you. No one can talk to you. So they pride themselves on wearing the dress. Whereas the real scholar who's not a hypocrite will be one who'll say, I'm amongst my people. I'm down to earth with my people. I'm not aloof from my people. I am a member of my people and a struggle with my people. All of these were seen as being signs of the Imam. That the Imam was seen as being an Imam who will come and oppose these signs of Dajjal. When you see people disrespecting their mothers, when you see that there is no shame, that adultery has become a norm, that the scholars are hypocritical, that the rulers are corrupt, then know that the Dajjal system is in full force. And I tell you, when anyone tries to speak out against the Dajjal system, be he someone in politics, be he someone in music, they finish them straight away. Wasn't JFK a president who spoke out against the New World Order and they finished him in one bullet? Didn't Bob Marley in his music say, do not listen to them, wonder about what they are telling you? You as a follower of Ahlul Bayt, you have to deprogram. Ask yourself, the way I'm living my life, am I truly honoring the Imam of my time? Or have they programmed me in a way where they dictate when I become religious? I don't dictate when I become religious. Notice, you're the one who has it in your hand to become religious. No one can stop you. Unless you are being programmed in a way where you're being told, don't be religious now, enjoy the world, then later become religious. Why do they say that to you? Because they know you don't know how long you're going to live. So you'll end up in a world of sin, in a world of corruption. And isn't that what they want? Someone asked the question, when the Imam returns, tyranny and corruption will be removed and peace and justice will spread. Will we have a perfect state? No, we won't have a perfect state. But it's relative. The amount of injustice that was there will be now justice. If 3/4 of the world was unjust, then 3/4 of the world will be just. And that's why when we come to our Imam, and the issue of the Mahdi is an issue for Islam, an issue for Christianity, an issue for Judaism, an issue for Sikhism, an issue for Hinduism, an issue for Zoroastrianism. Every religion believes in a Messiah. You must go out and discuss with people in interfaith discussions. They all believe in a man who will bring justice. As in, there are some who even call him Al-Qa'im. Imagine, there are some who even call him the Sadiq. There are some who call him the one who brings good news. Don't say Al-Mahdi is yours. Al-Mahdi is for every human being. Imam isn't going to come to chop heads off. When today we have Muslims who come on and say the Imam will come and he'll kill. No, 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 no. Your Imam is like your previous Imams. They've come to bring justice in a world of corruption. They've come to remove injustice in a world of tyranny. They've come to unite mankind. When they place their hands on your head, your intellect will increase. Your ethics will reach the highest level. Never in your life talk of our Imam in a way where you make him seem tyrannical. Our Imam wants to bring peace and justice. He wants to oppose the Dajjal system. The Dajjal system wants to cause disunity. It doesn't want free thinking. The Imam alongside Prophet Jesus alayhi salam, they will return to make sure there isn't such thing as hypocritical scholars or corrupt rulers. Why? Because they are a reflection of the message of the Imams who came before them. As in, when Imam returns, he doesn't want to see hypocritical scholars or corrupt rulers. He wants to see that when that corrupt ruler is speaking, he stands against him. He stands for truth. He stands for justice. In the same way his grandfather Imam al-Hussein stood for truth and stood for justice. Isn't Imam al-Hujjah's message just the message of Imam al-Hussein? But it's the culmination of the verse, وَنُرِيدُ أَن نَمُنَّ عَلَى الَّذِينَ اسْتُضْعِفُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَنَجْعَلَهُمْ أَئِمَّةً وَنَجْعَلَهُمُ الْوَارِثِينَ. The Quran says we want to bestow a favor upon those who were deemed weak on the earth, making them imams, making them inherit one another. Imam al-Hujjah inherits his grandfather's message. In how many of our narratives does Imam al-Hujjah always look back at Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam? In Dua Nudba we say what? In Dua Nudba we come forward and say the beautiful lines فَعَلَ الْأَطَائِبِ مِنْ آل مُحَمَّدْ وَعَلِي فَلْيَبْكِ الْبَاكُونَ وَإِيَّاهُمْ فَلْيَنْدُبُ النَّادِبُونَ وَيَصْرُخُ الصَّارِخُونَ وَيَعِجَّ الْعَاجُونَ وَيَضِجَّ الضَّاجُونَ. On those sons of Muhammad and Ali, what should you do? You should be crying, your tears should choke up, your voice should be loud in remembering them. This dua nutbah, you remember your imam when you recite it. Likewise in Ziyarat Nahiya we say that the imam in his own words when he reflects on Imam al-Hussein, he says, فَلَأَنْ أَخَّرَتْنِي الدُّهُورُ وَعَاقَنِي عَنْ نَصْرِكَ الْمَغْدُورُ وَلَمْ أَكُنْ لِمَنْ حَارَبَكَ مُحَارِبًا وَلِمَنْ نَصَبَ لَكَ الْعَدَاوَةَ مُنَاصِبًا فَلَأَنْدُبَنَّكَ صَبَاحًا وَمَسَاءً وَلَأَبْكِيَنَّ لَكَ بَدَلَ الدُّمُوعِ دَمًا. Imam al-Hujjah, when he remembers Imam al-Hussein, he says, time and destiny didn't allow me to be with you. Allah did not allow me to see your victory. But I promise you that every morning and every night I cry for you tears that become blood. What did Imam al-Hujjah go through when he first was recounted the story of Imam al-Hussein? In that same dua nutbah we say, أين السبب المتصل بين الأرض والسماء أين الطالب بدم المقتول بكربلاء. Where is the one who will avenge Karbala? Where is the one who will avenge what happened to Abu Fadl al-Abbas? Where is the one who will avenge what happened to Ali al-Akbar? Where is the one who will avenge what happened to Al-Qasim? Where is the one who will avenge what happened to the 6-month-old baby? That 6-month-old baby, until afterwards, even when Imam Zain al-Abidin came to bury Imam al-Hussein, from the grave he heard a noise saying, bury the baby on top of my chest. It's as if Imam al-Hussein was hurt more than any other death by the death of his 6-month-old baby, without a shadow of doubt. Because it's difficult for any mother to lose her child, let alone a mother who was not able to help her child. In the child's final moments, Rabab didn't even take the baby to the dad. She didn't have the strength to. It was Sayyida Zainab who took the 6-month-old baby to the father. Ya Imam Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman, I ask for your mercy and forgiveness when I narrate this, because I know how much it would hurt you. When they brought the 6-month-old baby to Imam al-Hussein, Imam looked at that baby. There was no strength left in the baby at all. Imam came out towards the army of Umar ibn Sa'ad. When he came out towards the army, what do the narrations mention? The narrations mention that he came out towards the army. He looked at them. He said, "O army of Umar ibn Sa'ad, if you want to kill me, then kill me. But what has the 6-month-old baby done wrong to you? Just quench the thirst of this 6-month-old baby." The narrations mention some members of the army were saying, okay, let's quench the thirst. Others were saying, no way, let's kill the baby and kill Hussein's heart. He then took the baby, placed the baby on the ground. He said, okay, I'm away from the baby now. Let some one of you just come and give water to the baby. That's it. None of them came. He took the baby back. On the 3rd time, he called out, "O army of Umar bin Sa'ad, I beg of you, please come and give some water to this baby. I can't even hear a noise in the baby anymore." Imagine that level, what that mother went through. The narration states that when he said, give something, no one narrates this better than Al-Mukhtar when he met Harmala bin Kahil. Why? Because Umar ibn Sa'ad is narrated when he saw Imam al-Hussein that third time. Umar ibn Sa'ad is narrated to say to Harmala, what are you waiting for, Harmala? And that's why when Al-Mukhtar caught Harmala bin Kahil, he said to him, what did you do on the 10th of Muharram? Harmala bin Kahil replied, on the 10th of Muharram, I shot 4 arrows towards the army of Imam al-Hussein, 7 arrows towards the army of Imam al-Hussein. 4 of them struck their target and 3 of them missed. He said, which are the 4 that you got the target? He said, the first arrow I struck was on the right eye of Abu Fadl al-Abbas. When he was sitting on his horse, we had already cut his right hand and his left hand. I struck the arrow on his eye and he fell on the ground without his hands in front of him. He said to him, what was the second arrow that you shot? He said, the second arrow was on the nephew of Imam al-Hussein, Abdullah, the son of Imam al-Hassan. When he saw Imam al-Hussein lying on the ground, when he saw him alone, I saw him coming running out, sitting next to his uncle's body, and he called out, you cannot kill my uncle before you kill me. So Umar bin Sa'ad said, strike the young boy and finish his life. I struck the arrow on the young boy and killed him in front of his uncle. He said to him, the third arrow that you struck, who did you strike? He replied, the third arrow is the one that hurts me until today. He said to him, why? He said, the third arrow I struck it on the 6-month-old baby. He said to him, why does it hurt you? He said, firstly, because I used an arrow which we used to pierce the neck of a camel. That was the arrow that I used. He said, secondly, I am hurt because when I struck the arrow on the neck of the 6-month-old, the 6-month-old began to flap its hands like a bird flaps its wings. I saw the 6-month-old began to flap its hands. He said to him, how about the 4th arrow that you struck? He said, the 4th arrow I struck on the chest of Imam al-Hussein. When Imam al-Hussein was lying on the ground, and the 4th arrow I struck when I saw the whiteness on his chest. Imam al-Hussein, when the baby died, he was walking towards the tent, then he walked back, then he walked, then he came back. He did this 7 times. He kept on saying, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And they called out, Abu Abdullah, why can you not return back to the tents? He said, I don't know how to tell a mother that her baby's neck has been pierced by an arrow. How do I explain to Rabab what they have done to this baby? And that's why on the night of the 11th of Muharram, after everything had happened, Sayyidah Zainab was sitting down. She woke up, she was looking for the ladies. She saw Ramla, she saw Sukaina, she saw the ladies, but she couldn't find Rabab. She looked around, where is Rabab? She looked around, all of a sudden, she saw a lady walking around Karbala, walking as if she was confused. Sayyidah Zainab said to her, Rabab, what are you doing? She said to her, my sister Zainab, I'm looking for my baby in the ground. I want to go and offer my baby something to drink. I cannot bear that my baby died without anything to drink. And that's why even the narrations mention that this Rabab, when she returned back to Medina, she did something unbelievable. When she entered the house of Imam al-Hussein after he was killed, when she entered, she asked someone, remove this
roof on my house. I don't want to live with a roof on top of me. He said to her, why? She said, how can I be sheltered from the heat while my husband's body was burnt by the sun in Karbala? How can I have a protection on top of me when my husband's body lay on the ground with no one to protect him? That's why Imam Zayn al-Abidin knew Imam al-Hussein how much he was hurt by seeing the baby. But at least the baby had someone to bring him back. Who brought back Imam al-Hussein when he lay on the ground? Who brought back Imam al-Hussein when Shimr sat on the chest of the Imam? Imam Zayn al-Abidin would never forget that moment when Shimr sat on the chest of the Imam. That's why I leave you with this narration. Imam al-Baqir narrates, when my father Zayn al-Abidin, when the poison had surrounded his body, he was in his final moments. I, as his son, I was in pain. I came, I hugged the chest of my father. He says, when I hugged his chest, my father began to cry and cry and cry. You all know where I am going. I looked at him and I said to him, my father, why do you cry? When in a moment you will see Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, and you'll see Imam al-Hassan, and you'll see Imam al-Hussein. Why is it that you cry? Listen to the reply. He looked at him and he said to him, oh Muhammad, I cry because when I die, you are on my chest, whereas when my father Imam al-Hussein was dying, do you know who sat on the chest of my father?
Brothers and sisters, raise your hands. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to receive the intercession of Imam al-Hussein. Salawatullah wa salamuhu alayh. Allow us to be amongst the companions of Imam al-Hussein. Raise us with the Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman. Ya Allah, we ask you to protect all the ill ones of our community. In the name of the ill one of Karbala, Imam Zayn al-Abidin, allow us to be amongst those who protect the message of Imam al-Hussein this year and every year. Allow us to be aware of the system of Dajjal and allow us to be amongst those who serve the message of Islam. I'd like to thank the organizers for these Majalis, especially Haj Sadiq and Haj Ali, and the whole Al-Iman team, who as usual have been outstanding in their organization, and all of the volunteers and the MCs and everyone who has worked hard to make sure this program has been successful, and of course yourselves who have come to continue to honor the message of Ahlul Bayt. Inshallah, we will continue in the service of Ahlul Bayt. We remember all our brothers around the Islamic word with the Surah Al-Fatiha, but before it, the loudest of your salawat.